I want to call the meeting to order for May 28th of 2020. When I call your name, please say here. Amy Marr?
Amy Marr here.
Martin John?
Yep.
Pamela Hill?
Here.
Colleen Roy?
Here.
Mark Haddad?
Here.
Angie Correa?
Here.
And Laura Didio? Not here. Okay. All right, I just got to go through this. I don't even know if I have to read this, but I'm going to read this opening
don't.
statement anyway.
You really don't have to.
Okay, I'm not going to. I'm just going to remind people that this meeting is being conducted remotely and in accordance with Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order. Please remember you are being recorded. Anything you say here can and will be held against you by anybody viewing this material. And with that, let's go through the latest draft of the benchmarking report. Has everybody had a chance to peruse it at least a little bit? That's excellent, because I have not. So sadly, I'm going to be
Well, then it's new to you. I just put
It's
the link
new to
in the
me.
chat.
okay, good. So I'm going to click on that and then I'll do screen share.
Cool.
All right. Then where'd you guys go? Sorry. All right. Share screen. All right. So we are living in the digital world. So this is something that's formatted for presentation, obviously online, with the graphs involved. I think it looks great. I think that there's some wordsmithing that I would like to do. For instance, we've got to hash out what's capitalized and what's not capitalized in life. But outside of that, I think we're looking good. Now, we've got the first graph here that we've inserted. As shown below, Grafton's population is closer to Auburn, Bellingham, Ashland, and Westboro. I think that's a good data point for us to bear in mind. Again, some of these communities are in the DOR's sister community grouping. Others of them are not, most prominently Westboro. But Westboro still is fairly close to us in population size. Is everybody fine with that graph, how it looks and where it is?
Yes.
All right.
I think it looks magnificent.
Whoever did that, it's good graph work.
It is a very good graph.
Oh,
I was working on PowerPoint presentations all week, so
Nice
I
work.
applaud you.
Table 2 shows that Grafton is in the middle of the per capita income list. Okay, I'm scrolling through the numbers there.
Ed,
Yes.
just a small point.
Mhm.
Any and all numbers will be probably maybe challenged. That's why I put the source down underneath the table.
Good.
And an important point is that almost all of these numbers came from the Department of Revenue.
Yes.
Yes, the Department of Revenue. But the Department of Revenue in Massachusetts does not make up these numbers. It's up to the town to submit them to the DOR, and they just do a transfer. So what's that, Schedule A or with something like that? So if there is an error, and there is one big error in here, not in ours, because I didn't use that table, but if there are errors, it emanated from the town, not from us.
What's the error you're referring to?
There is a total debt number in here, something like 13 million, when it should be closer to 3 or 4 million. And it's not in this document. It's not in these tables. but it is on the DOR, one of the 351 reports.
Okay. Okay.
Barry, can I just make a suggestion here? You could, underneath the sources where you have the URL and the links, why don't you just put an asterisk next to the figure that you think is in error, and then underneath put the asterisk down there and say, these sources, this is the source, the town of blah, blah, blah is the source of this statistic.
Oops, am I still, yeah. The incorrect number is not in this document, and it's not in any of these tables or charts.
Oh, okay, so
I'm-
then, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
we
just
don't need it.
making the point that somebody might challenge, and all we have to say is it comes directly from the DOR, which comes from the town.
Right.
Now, they might not like the way you interpret it, but that's where you argue.
Well, like they say, everybody's entitled to their own opinions. No one's entitled to their own facts, and we're getting the numbers and the data from reliable sources. So that's that part. Okay, so tutorial. For the purposes of, we should read this illustration. Let's assume a family of 5, and let's spell out 5. I'll go through this. Mother, father, and 3 children with a total income of 100,000, with each parent earning the same amount. So household income is 100,000, per capita income households 100,000 divided by 5 is 20,000. The earnings per worker is $50,000. Good. I think that's good to put in there. I think that's important because we can't assume that everybody understands what per capita is, or even that they're going to go look it up if we're going to put this information out there.
Hey,
For the
Ed,
purpose-
Yep.
Sorry.
the version of the document that you're using here is 3 days old.
Yeah.
Okay, I pasted a link to the most current version in the chat.
Oh, okay.
We
Oh,
may have to, when we get to education, we're gonna have to switch because I made changes this afternoon. And this isn't even
Oh.
Barry's latest that you're looking at.
hold on then, because I might have had multiple ones of these open.
And
Hold on 1 second.
unfortunately, when you look at the Google Docs version, I don't think the charts look as good because I had to, it's a whole thing, converting and nonsense. I don't have the same version of Word.
Hold on, I think this is the one you just gave me.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't line up right, so, no,
Nope.
that still says 526.
Gosh darn it.
Ed, if you click on the chat, it'll open right up. Go into chat, click on the link and it'll open right up for you.
Okay, so now that opened for me.
And then just share.
File name should be 528, not 526. And I just clicked the link to make sure it's doing it. It's going right to 28 instead of 26.
Okay, hold on 1 second. There's that. Da, 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 da. Got it.
There you
How's
go.
that?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So scrolling
Yeah,
down
so the
there.
formatting is kind of messed up.
No, I mean, it's fine. You know, at some point, somebody is going to probably print this out. But really, a vast majority of the people who are going to be reading this are probably going to do it when we post it to the website, the town's website, you know. So I think this works.
I think when we do the final version, we'll post it as a PDF and that'll take care of the formatting problems.
I agree. I think that'll be fine.
Can I go back to just one comment on the tutorial section that we were
Sure.
talking about real quick? Just because you said you were going to update some of the wording. In the scenario with the fictitious family of 5, could we
Yep.
just change mother and father to 2 parents and 3 children?
Sure. Let me grab a pen and paper here. So that would be page 5.
So does that become parent 1 and parent 2?
Sure. All right. So just scrolling down from that. Then we get to the mixed property values. Again, all this information coming from the same location. This is all DOR. There's no
Oxford.
data set for Oxford? Not that I care, but
No, and they haven't updated it.
They suck. Oxford's a hole. I'm sorry. It's a hole.
Grafton Sustainability Commission recommends not being like Oxford.
I just know people that have moved there recently and been very, very disappointed. So there's a data point for you. If you have a problem with our municipal services in schools, try Oxford. It's cheaper and it's
Tell
not
you what,
better.
Oxford, you and your comma can take a hike. All right.
Hey, wait a minute.
Data summary, key questions. So allocation decisions. Okay, so when we get into the key questions presented in the study, we get into the graph with the data, highlighting Grafton with a foundational source. Okay. Yeah, just here, one of the things I'll make a note of, why they're capitalizing public works or not, recreation, culture. I mean, Amy's good with that stuff.
Mhm.
On the other hand, Grafton allocates less funds to communities to police, fire, and general government. I think probably in this, we're going to want to define what we're considering general government.
Would municipal services be a better?
I think that's probably a better phrase, municipal services.
Does municipal services then start to confuse police and fire and recreation and schools? And
I think it sort of falls into that catch-all of other, especially when you're using it in the context of, we're looking at police, fire, and we're breaking out recreation and culture by and large. But I can put a line in there that basically, because we don't have a definition section in here, and outside of this one phrase, I don't think we need it just yet. I mean, already we've kind of defined per capita within the context of the report, and I think that's fine. And I'm happy doing it with general government as well. If we, as we go through this, if we find that there are more and more terms that would be better to have defined, we can add in a definition section at the front. I tend not to like definition sections because I just think they're distracting. And if, as a reader, when I see a definition section, I think to myself, oh, Jesus, this is something I'm not going to want to read. They're already telling me how to define things.
Yeah.
general government is a measure on the DOR website.
Right. In FY18, Grafton allocated $3,825,139 in debt service to capital projects to maintain, improving, replacing long-term assets like buildings, roads. Okay. One of the things that I wonder about, is it better to have these charts in here in the text of what we're saying? Because we get data summary here. Here are the key questions. Number one, allocation decisions. And then you go down 3 pages and you're at compensation strategy. It's not until you get to page 10 that we do comparison communities. Are we chopping up the narrative flow of introducing the key question section by putting graphs in there? Should we move the graphs out to an index or just keep
No,
them?
I was going to speak on that actually, because I had the same thought when I started reading it through.
Yeah,
I think when you relegate things like this to the index, people aren't going to go flip through and read them, especially if it's an online document. In this day and age, I think we're expecting this is going to be consumed online. You may
okay.
send paper copies to your select board members or something, but I think in today's world, you want to show those charts right there because people are not going to flip back. And seeing them in the context here is, I thought it was really choppy at first, but I came to appreciate it as I started to read it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense.
One picture is worth 1,000 words.
That is true.
People want that instant gratification. Amy
that's
is
true.
right. The attention span these days is like no more than that of, a nursery school kid.
Well, that's why, I mean, even when I downloaded this and I saw, what are we at, 29 pages? That's it. That's it, you know?
Yeah.
All
But,
right, so,
Ed, though, you need the gravitas. It's a tricky tap dance between making it short, sweet, and very concise, and then also providing all of the indexes and and explanations and where you got, the data and what you're doing. So ultimately, I think we're well served by 29 pages. Now,
Yeah.
Here's another thought is we could do like a 1 to 2 or 3 page executive summary.
I think that's a good idea.
And I'll volunteer to work with you guys and put it together based on the highlights.
I think that's an excellent idea because, again, to go back to the bigger picture, when this is done, we're going to get into, when everybody starts getting back to work, we'll get into all the 5 other categories that we have. At the end of the day, if we have a 3 or 4 page executive summary of each of those things, that in and of itself right there, the executive summary of this report is going to be 10, 15 pages long. So I think it's a good idea. On compensation strategy, I didn't realize, I'm sorry, this is my fault. I didn't realize you didn't have those numbers in there. I'll work on that with you because I know we have them on the drive to put together a chart there. Obviously, it's a prescient topic this week.
Do you have the compensation strategy for the other towns? Oops, sorry.
Yeah, I think we did comparisons for similar positions in other communities that when we were right on line with our spends.
Okay.
So we'll break that out. I'll email that to you. Then comparison communities. I do want to say a little bit more about the comparison communities here. So I'll add a paragraph. To again reiterate, we chose the Department of Revenue comparison communities specifically to compare with the municipal side of the government. We use the Department of Education comparison communities for our education, and we chose, somewhat anecdotally, the communities that were geographically contiguous with us, realizing that expenses for employees, which makes up 80% of our budget, is driven by our geography. You have to pay people enough to be able to live here. And if people are living in this area, they might seek out comparable positions in other communities that are paying more. So our costs, fairly or unfairly, are still somewhat driven by towns that it is otherwise unfair to compare us to, like Millbury, like Shrewsbury, and like Westboro. So I will add that paragraph in here on page 10. But otherwise, is everybody good with that? All right.
Yep.
All right, then we get into the meat of it, revenues. That looks good. Tax levy, state aid, local receipts, other revenue. Get out of here. No, do not want to optimize my PC. Sorry.
At least not right now.
Yeah, right. Taxes. Okay, anybody have any questions or issues with any of these 2 charts?
Is anybody upset about Northborough having the H come down on the one up?
That's a formatting issue. We'll take care of that.
Okay.
Or we'll just do what everybody else does and eliminate the UGH.
No.
That would drive me crazy if we did that and left Westboro. That would.
And
Yep.
if anything, my 2 cents, if anything is worth elaborating, it's the tax story. Because that's what people ultimately, that's where the rubber meets the road. That's
true.
do you want a bigger school? more taxes? Do you want fewer cops? Lower taxes, blah, blah, blah. So
Would it be easier, Barry, would it be easy to edit this by reversing the order of development and taxes? I feel like taxes should be one and development should be two.
move taxes where? Up?
Up to one,
First.
yeah, under revenues, that should probably be the first one, because people are gonna be looking for it.
Is this where we talk about being a 90-10?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, I'd go first with that.
Wait a minute. You're okay. Go ahead. So the next table down.
Yeah, so that
Right.
whole chunk, number 2 should be number 1 now.
right.
I agree.
And then we get into state aid.
Yeah, those are easy to move.
Okay.
They're
Oh, I
wide.
like that graph, buddy.
That's my second favorite graph.
That's amazing.
The other
That
one I
really
was
just gave me
trying to
heartburn.
find, the other chart was 10 plus years ago, 25% of our budget came from the state. Now it's
Yep.
less than 18%. There's a gap. That's a structural deficit.
So I point that out so much that I wonder if we pointed that out in here.
I did
Well,
not-
I mean, it's probably not germane to the benchmarking report. That's going to be germane to the cost structure and income reports.
Mark,
Let's see.
Yes,
do you agree with that?
yes.
Okay.
Free cash. Over 5 years, Grafton's seen a downward trend in the amount of dollars it gathered from other sources, that is free cash and transfers of surpluses from other funds. Benchmarking data raises question whether Grafton's policies are related to generating free cash should be reviewed.
Can I make
I
a
don't
point
have
here?
a chart here.
Yeah,
So I think as much as we hate defining things, I think we need people to understand what free cash is.
Yep.
And I
Why
think
don't
we
we
do.
not call it free cash, and why don't we just call it excess and deficiency fund surplus revenue? Free cash does have a bad,
does.
Is
It's
that
an
the
awful
legal
connotation.
definition? Is it the legal definition though? I mean,
the legal
kinda-
definition is surplus revenue. That's the
So,
legal
guess-
definition.
I guess using the term free cash while misleading is what they're going to hear at
At
town
town
meeting
meeting.
and what they're going to see
Right.
in the budget. So we could call it something else, but then in parentheses say free cash.
yeah, let's
So they
do
know.
that. Let's say free cash defined as surplus revenues. This is the amount of money that is left over from unexpended funds in the prior budget year. Although technically speaking, this particular point isn't necessarily a benchmark, because we don't benchmark our trend in free cash against other communities. This would probably be a good place for a bar graph showing 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19 free cash levels. They haven't, it's not as though it's dropped off a cliff, but it's less than it used to be. I mean, we were at a high, my recollection was back in 2015, we were talking about like somewhere around 3 million, 2.8 million in free cash, and now we're significantly lower than that. So that's,
Yeah.
that should be noted,
What do you
particularly where we
what do you
rely
know?
on that for capital.
Might some people get confused with the usage of the term free cash and confuse it with something like surplus?
Well, free cash is, I mean, that really is what it is. It's cash that is unencumbered because you budgeted for it the year before and it went unused. A lot of the people that have issues with raising taxes for an override will tell you, well, why can't we just use free cash? And as Mark will tell you, and most town managers and administrators will tell you, you don't want to use one-time revenues to fund ongoing costs, because you find yourself just in a bigger hole next year. That's especially true in Grafton, where not only do we really not want to do that, but we don't want to ignore the implications of not paying for capital, because over time capital just gets more expensive. So the less free cash that you have on hand to pay for capital, the more that capital is going to cost you later. So it's sort of a double whammy. So let's remind me to insert bar graph there.
No, I get that. The thing that I think might be confusing to just a layperson who is not familiar with the ongoing workings of a local government, might be, usually when you think of surplus, it's like, oh, you think that the select board and the town administrator did such a great job. And then suddenly it's like, well, what happened? Where did that money go?
Free cash.
Yeah, yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Let's wordsmith it a little bit and then come back to the next draft on that one.
Ed,
Yeah.
I need to generate a chart for that, so I can. That's not hard to find.
Okay. If you,
Colleen
if
has it.
yeah, I
Barry,
think Colleen's got that
Colleen has
data.
it. She just texted it to me. Ed, are you keeping a running tab of how are you recording all this? Awesome.
Old-fashioned way.
Rewatch the.
Is that a
video.
legal sized pad or?
Oh,
No, it's just yellow.
Okay, thank you.
Doing it the old-fashioned way, kids.
Good for you.
I don't write cursive, but I can print on paper. City and town expenses, total expenditures, and school expenditures. I feel like that should say municipal expenditures and school expenditures.
Is there a missing chart there?
Where?
The second line says chart 1A, pie chart, bar graphs. Are they just on the next page?
Oh no, so that's I was editing off the top of my head, so
Okay.
that'll come out. If I was using the edit function on this correctly, that would just be a track change. I wanted to insert that graph that we're looking at right there.
Okay.
So that should come out.
Awesome.
All right, benchmarking data suggests further investigation limits.
Wait,
Scale.
that's the same.
What's that?
That's the same chart.
Yeah,
No,
there
it's
is
just
an
North
application
Roads.
as you get in, but I edited down the tables to focus on a specific issue you're dealing with here.
Right. So this one relates to total municipal expenditures. This is general government as a percent of the budget, police as a percent of the budget, fire as a percent of the budget.
And that's not the same table that we just saw.
It's portions of it. So Barry
Okay.
pulled
Great.
out.
Okay,
Yep.
that's cool. I just was expecting to see something pertaining to the school in that chart, and there isn't.
Oh no, so then you scroll.
Oh
No, wait. So yeah, wait.
Okay.
Remember,
We
in college, the more pages you have, the better the grade.
Yeah. What we should have though, Amy's right, is the chart saying school cost as
There
a
you go.
percentage of the budget with the school comparison towns.
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like this might be slightly different than the other one we saw, but the columns are police, fire, general government, and they should be municipal, school.
So when we get to the school section, I think we have one that has school budget as a percentage of town budget, though.
Right, should we
Hold
just
on.
leave
Do we-
the school off of this entirely? Like off of this part? Just take it out of the heading. All municipal.
I mean, I could even justify, I don't want to remove it entirely because I think it's such a sticking point for some people that it actually almost justifies a second paragraph. We could do 1 municipal expenditures and then 2 school expenditures. And then we do get down to police, then we do fire. I'm just scrolling down now. Public works, general government, culture and recreation, executive municipal salaries, we'll need a chart there, capital assets and debt. And then we do school benchmarking. So the way I structured it in my head as I was thinking about it, I was almost doing little executive summaries of the entire thing before we got into detail. So I would probably stick that chart in there.
I agree, because I feel like if you don't put the schools up front, you're burying the lead.
Yeah, people are going to be, and people will be flipping through it, ignoring the other information, trying to find that portion of it. Okay. And again, I work off of paper. I'm going to print this out and just take a bigger look at it and make sure the structure of this makes sense to me. Okay, police. And not the people in the band. waving at my coworkers. Grafton Sweeper receives a slightly smaller percentage of total municipal budget. Grafton's prime per capita. Okay. Population, violent crime, property crime, crime per capita. Okay. And that
Why
chart makes sense.
Is that Shrewsbury number, right? 0.11?
Yeah, that's what it.
That's what they're saying.
That's
Okay.
the worst. Neighborhood.
I'm surprised.
That's
Yeah.
actually a real
Listed in the
estate,
top 10 safest communities in Massachusetts.
Shrewsbury is?
I'm moving.
Interesting.
Why is Millbury highlighted there?
Oh, I don't have Millbury highlighted. I have Grafton highlighted.
Grafton's highlighted green, but Millbury.
Oh, yeah. Millbury's got a
little
pink.
block.
I see.
I didn't know if that was tell a story or,
No, that's a legacy thing.
okay.
Millbury is maroon, green, pink, or whatever. We should take all of that out. I thought I caught those.
I mean, I like having the Grafton in green in every table because I think it helps center
Mhm.
you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just easy to find, right? That's right. Yeah, so your eyes aren't scrolling aimlessly through the data. I agree with you. Okay, then we go down to fire. And then fire is a percentage of our budget. You know, again, that number tells a story. Fire at 1.1% of our budget.
Oxford.
Meanwhile, Oxford's violent crime is the highest on the chart. Okay,
Yeah. And their fire is 0.
right.
I don't know why.
They're immune to fire.
Public Works, that's a good chart. Again, tells an interesting story. I'll edit out that chart 1E. I'll go through all these paragraphs and edit that stuff out. We'll have to obviously be organized and know which version of this everybody's editing.
That's why I'm not planning to touch anything until, yeah, we can talk
Yeah,
about that.
so
We'll do the next steps.
I'll work on this one and then I'll send it to you and we'll have a general working document.
Okay.
Let's see, general governments. So there we are at 4.4% of our budget. Sort of right in the middle of the pack. Good chart. Culture and recreation.
On culture and recreation,
Mhm.
when I think of recreation, I'm not sure if that's just all of their expenses without counting the money that they get for the programs that they run.
I think that is what that is. And I think that just, it raises that question, and it's been represented over the past couple months that we shouldn't worry so much about what recreation spends because the cost is covered by their income. But we are going to want to see that income.
Yes.
And when we get to municipal cost structure, we'll get into that part of it.
I have a formatting question.
Sure.
So I'm noticing the tables have the towns in different orders depending on which table. And I think if we're trying to use the tables to tell a story, we need to be consistent. So if we're going to say, for example, Grafton's on the high end here, do we want to be sorting all the tables low to high or high to low? Sorry, Barry.
No, excellent question. Excellent question.
I mean, the first few charts are in alphabetical order, which makes total sense. Here are our comparison communities. They're in alphabetical order until we get to this section. And the last 2 charts I've seen have been different order. So in my mind, I think high is top and low is bottom. But I don't know what you all think, and I think we should be consistent.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be consistent. Just do it alphabetically. That way
No,
everybody's looking at the same line all the time.
no. The ranking
Yeah.
should dominate, not the alphabet.
I agree with Barry. We're using this to tell a story pictorially.
That's true. Sorry.
No, it's fine. That's why we're working
I'm going
together.
to just pout now that you disagreed with
Yeah,
me.
Mark, go stand in the
Mark.
corner.
No,
Aw,
Mark is the full professor.
what?
Amy is only the TA. Come on.
I do not want to be the TA. Please stop.
Neither do I.
That's right. You're the full professor. Just lean back, take it easy.
Yep.
So I agree. Yeah, let's go top to bottom with highest to lowest. And then when you go back to, I think it's the slide on page 14, we can do, I guess we'll go by, it depends on what story you want to tell with that particular, I guess we'll go with the total on
Okay,
page 14,
this,
because that's a very general chart.
yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
not
think
sure what
this
I
is
was doing with this
California.
chart. This chart does not refer to total school and total municipal.
Right.
So that's the wrong chart in this spot.
Right. Delete.
Okay.
But yeah, I think we, in the, like, again, in the first section, having them in alphabetical order like this one is, makes sense. But as we move into this, what is this section called? I forget.
This is city/town benchmarking. We go through benchmarking on revenues, and then we go through benchmarking on expenditures. So this is the expenditure portion.
You know what might be helpful is at the top of each page, if you put the thing city, town expenditures with the underline in bold and just say CONTD.
That's so we can keep track of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Fire, public works, general government, culture and recreation, executive municipal salaries. We need a chart for that. Then we get to capital assets. Well, just we'll go back here for a second.
Are we gonna be able to get that?
We have this, don't we? Pretty sure we've got benchmark salaries on TAs and superintendents.
This is just TAs, right?
Executive municipal, yeah.
Okay, I went.
Because we
through
had this
the-
conversation last time where we thought
I'm
we were
saying
worried
it
we
says
were
I have no
comparing apples
data,
to.
so I don't know.
Yeah, I went through the various budget books from a number of the towns, and I tried to find where they had TA and ATA salaries. The two things on that. Some of them did not have a budget book.
Right.
Some of them didn't have the information for the TA and the ATA. Some only had the TA. Some had the ATA. The only town I found that showed all the compensation, that is the salary plus the annuity plus etc., was Grafton. None of the other towns showed that level of detail. And I mentioned the annuity because Tim earns rightfully $15,000 a year in an annuity on top of his salary. And
Right.
that would put him middle and a bit higher than the 8 or so towns I was able to get. But I'm not sure that would be a valid thing to put in. I only dug that out because the comment came from the select board that, well, we need to give Tim a raise so that he can be closer to what other town administrators get. And I didn't know where that information came from, so I did some digging.
Well, so I guess my only thing about that is we're all sort of held hostage to our ability to collect that data, and
Yep.
I think that is a perfectly fair asterisk to put next to this paragraph. In fact, it should be mentioned that this is the data we were able to collect. We were unable to determine whether or not there was any additional compensation above and beyond what was reported. But apples to apples, here is what the sister communities' executive salaries are, and this is what their executive compensation is, and this is what ours is, as far as we know.
Yeah. Now, Mark, you had dug out some names with numbers. Do you
Yes.
have a magic source?
I get a survey here, part of the MMA, of the various salaries of the town administrators. It's supposed to be confidential. I'm not supposed to share it with anybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to get in trouble.
No.
Any more trouble anyway.
Yes, good. Thank you, Ed. Good point.
So how do we bridge this gap then? How do we get this data?
You'd have to call the communities and ask them directly for the data.
Yeah,
If you
we can
want.
do that. Let me make a note to myself to do that this week. Just call the DOR communities, say, look, this is what I have for the compensation. Is there any other?
Ed, what I would do, sorry to interrupt, what I would do
No.
is I would ask for copies of their contracts.
Yeah.
Because that way, to address Barry's point, you get the, all the compensation, deferred comp, health insurance, vehicle
great suggestion.
reimbursement and all that. So you're going to want to look at the contract. You're not just going to want to ask, and it's public document. They should be able to fax it or fax it. My God, I just ate
Yeah,
myself.
I mean,
Email it over
in-
to you.
And suddenly the
very
fax
simply.
machine breaks.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good idea. I'll do that. I just, I don't think I'm going to get it anytime soon, but we're in COVID, so we're all in COVID time here. Okay. Then capital assets in debt, benchmarking data suggests graph and structure builds graphs as debt service for capital projects are relatively moderate. And we go down here and we do 2018, 2019 percentage, general fund debt service as percentage of the budget, a little bit higher last year, 2-year average. And yeah, I think those numbers tell that story. We should probably order this one. What's that rank number? Just rank among the towns?
That's the highest is number 1. The second highest is number 2.
Okay, this one makes sense to do, I guess, alphabetically because we're grouping towns. We do 2 of Grafton, 2 of Holliston. So if we broke them up, that wouldn't make any sense. So, okay, let's keep it the way we have it. That's fine.
If you broke it up, would it get confusing? Because it's not like the towns are separating. His rank is still separated by
Rank
2.
is still rank.
Right.
That's true. Yeah, we could do it by rank.
You might
Okay.
even be able to take that column out once you order it that way. You could just get rid of that column altogether.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
That's a nice table, though.
Beautiful table. All right, school benchmarking.
Oh, I like these. Man, you guys cranked those out in like 2 seconds. Jeez,
Pam and Angie
Look at
did a
that.
fantastic job. I had nothing to do with it.
you're hired. Every one of you is hired.
I was doing something else, Barry. I had other things
Is
to do.
300? Is 350,000 enough?
Wow,
Wow.
that's a nice chart.
Now we just need to decide I can remake this chart as soon as we decide how we want these ones kind of organized. Because I think I moved Grafton to the beginning on each of mine. And then I left the other towns in the order they were in. So they're not in alphabetical order or by amount.
I think the thing about bar graphs is I'm not sure it matters that much because you're just looking at
I agree.
the relative height. Look at Shrewsbury. Whew,
Yeah.
great.
Well,
Good
what
for
is
those
the
guys.
population of Shrewsbury though compared to us? I mean, it's a lot.
It's about double.
Double.
Yeah.
Their enrollment's double, but they also have 3 assistant superintendents. So
Wow.
And a Home Depot and a Mercedes dealership and a Buffalo Wild Wings. They do all right,
among other things.
among other things.
There is
Five guys.
an asterisk on this data. We never got, or as far as I could tell from the data we had in the Google Drive, we never got the final approved budget numbers for Shrewsbury. So I just popped in their proposed FY20 budget numbers for the purpose, and I noted that
Yeah.
below the graph.
Yeah. I've asked 4 times for their final budget, and
Doesn't
They're not-
the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, don't they publish all that data?
so they do, but they don't publish it for FY20 yet.
Okay, yep.
So we made a decision to go with FY20 data where we could. And you'll see later that's going to deviate slightly, but yeah, current data.
Okay, and there's the per pupil spend chart. There was a question that I actually didn't realize I had this wrong. So the per pupil spend does actually count the healthcare cost,
Yes.
right? I didn't realize that was true.
And I popped in on the charts the total spend per pupil as well as spend without benefits because we had those numbers in our graph. I don't know if it adds a lot here for the reader or not.
I think I think adding a paragraph perhaps in between those two charts, describing what per pupil spend is and how it's calculated would be helpful.
Pam, you got that?
I don't-
I
the
could draft something. I don't know if I can define what per pupil spend is exactly. I don't know everything that goes into per pupil spend, but I could look into it and draft something up.
It's the simplest calculation ever. Total number of
Total
students,
number of students and total amount of money
total
spent.
spend, that's it. Yep.
Okay, yeah, I'll add something in then.
I think the only thing you have to watch out for there is it is a little bit tricky for people that don't realize the healthcare cost is in there, because you'll look at the school budget and the school budget won't reflect that healthcare cost. So if you just looked at the school budget and divided by students, you'll get a different number, but you do have to, you have to remind people that the healthcare is factored in there.
And our
And that's
healthcare
sort of-
costs are low compared to other
Right.
communities, which is why it
Yeah.
kind of
Right, and
evens.
so this is one of those, when we get to school cost drivers and municipal cost drivers, we'll have to, why is our per pupil spend lower, even though we actually pay more total than other communities? Well, part of it could be that we pay a little bit less in healthcare simply because of our demographics. That could be. I mean, that's a hypothesis, and we'll have to get to that.
Right, and I'm curious, and it might not make any difference, but with everything that's happening now with people's spouses getting laid off and stuff, I just wonder, I wonder why people weren't taking the health insurance in the first place,
Because
and
it's a shittier plan.
Anecdotally, yeah.
if that's going to change if
Right.
a quarter of the population is laid off, how does
Right.
that affect that number?
That might be a good point to put at the beginning of this, Ed,
Mhm.
as almost like a caveat that this work was done pre-COVID.
Yeah. Things could change.
Things will change. I mean,
Yep.
it might be an important note to put right at the outset. We don't yet know the full impact that COVID will have on things like our health insurance. Teachers, we don't know. I mean, there's talk that some of the teachers may not return, even if we go back in the fall. That's going to be an issue.
Right. All right. I'll add that in. School demographics. That's a good chart. English learners economically disadvantaged.
Yep.
All right. And then teacher salaries. There's a good one. There it is.
Yep.
That's what this year's numbers?
Yes. that was-
FY
Yes.
20? Okay.
And that does not include our paraeducators, therapists, and specialists, which I like that that's in there.
Right.
Because we rely on them heavily. But yeah, doesn't look great.
The math is the math, as they say.
Yep.
Special education.
Okay, so thank you to Dan Gale. I want to say that publicly. And Greg, my husband, I had him help me with this. I went back to fiscal year 19 to get all the data. So in the special education area, because of where I got the data, which was DESE, even though we had previously in the chart said, oh, Grafton Public Schools allocates 37% to special education, and that looked way off. Let me, hold on. I can show you now. I have completed the special education section of the table. Ed, do you want to give me screen share for just a minute and I can show you guys that?
Go ahead.
Oh, you already did it? Oh, hi, Angie. You're enormous now.
Sorry.
Was it nice?
So like, I flipped back and it was like Angie. And I'm like, whoa.
Ah.
Okay. You have to enable it for me.
Oh.
I know. Learning by
Uh,
doing, right?
Share screen. I'm going to do all panelists. There you go.
You all behave.
Yeah, everybody be nice.
Okay. I'm really proud of this. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay,
Mhm.
so using the older data, you can now see The percent of school budget spent on special education, we're right in the middle.
Wow.
Now
Yeah.
that's as of 2 years ago, right?
Not even in the middle. We're on the low end.
Thank you, Angie.
Okay.
Are you going to make me a really nice table to show that, please? Um,
Sure.
So one of the things that I was concerned about when we had that paragraph initially was that we have made considerable changes in the district to how we run special education. There was a lot of criticism.
Right.
Oh, we're overstaffed. We've adjusted staffing levels and we've made some economies there, but we're still offering a superior program. So what ends up happening is we get students from other districts paying us, which is awesome, and that cuts the cost a little bit. So it's not as big of an expenditure as, say, Bellingham at 39%, Holliston 36, Shrewsbury 36. So
Okay.
it's not as bleak a picture, but it is going to be around 1/3, no matter what district you're in at this
That's
point.
right.
And the numbers of kids they're all around that same. I mean, I think if I saw it graphically, I might change my statement there. They're all about the same. The state average that year was 18.5%, and we were just slightly above that. The state average now is around 19, and we are 20.5, I think.
Mm,
So our numbers are going up. The state's numbers are going up. The other districts' numbers are going up. So it's not a Grafton problem. It's a state and maybe even a national problem. Or I shouldn't say problem, challenge would be a better
Right.
word. So I adjusted that paragraph. Can I stop sharing now?
mm.
Stop sharing. And I couldn't have done that without, Greg went through all the budget books for me to get the total school budgets out while I went for a walk. And Dan Gale came through at 5:30 with all the data that I needed. So that was fabulous. So we do need
Is that in the benchmarking?
that is in the benchmarking spreadsheet now. So you have access to that data.
Okay, I'll make
So I
a
adjusted the
chart.
paragraph, but it might be a little rough because I did it 30 minutes ago. 35
Okay.
minutes ago. Basically, we're comparable.
Okay. So that gets us to school characteristics. Comparable high school student teacher ratio, the MCAS stuff, and that is higher ed, number of teachers.
A question for the education folks.
Yes.
Is students per teacher the same as classroom size? So do we have classes with 20 people, 25 people?
I think it varies like from elementary school to high school. So we'd have to, if we wanted to show that, we'd have to decide what set we wanted to use.
I'm just curious. I remember.
Yep.
It's true.
being in
It's-
Yeah, no, I mean, there are like 20, I mean, I have kids in 9th, 6th and 2nd, and there's like 22, 20, you know, so.
Well, back in my day,
Oh, here we go. But that's why we report both numbers, because the ratio is for high school specifically. That's what
Oh,
that's
that's-
available. The ratio is high
Yeah.
school.
But that's not the class size in high school.
No, it's not.
No. Yeah.
So I
And
don't
that
want to
would
get
vary
too
greatly
into,
depending on the type of class.
I don't want to get too into pedagogical arguments.
Right.
We're showing MCAS scores.
Hmm.
And some people
Right.
think that MCAS is a great way to measure progress, and some people don't.
Right.
We didn't even take MCAS scores test this year. So I don't know if we need to say something about that or just leave it and let people think
Yeah,
what they
I think I would. Yeah, I think I would leave it and let people, you know, they can make that argument. I'm not an educational specialist. I'm less interested in trying to tell people what data they should pay attention to there. This is a convenient data set that we happen to have access to. And we're probably, unless you, I mean, you guys know better than I do. If you feel like there's a better data set to measure achievement in some way as benchmarked against these other communities, then I'm all ears.
I think this is the least controversial way. I mean,
Right.
you could look at graduation rates, but I don't even necessarily know.
But we sort of did that above in that other chart
You
too.
did. Yeah, you did. I saw
Yeah.
that. I don't know. It is. It's the only way to really compare districts.
Right.
One thing that might be good to have in here would be the state averages.
Yeah, I
That's
thought about that. We didn't have those numbers, but I was going to try to see if I could find them because that would be, I think, a good reference to have in this chart. And I can just pop that in
Yeah.
on the, like, the right-hand side.
If you need a source for that, let me know. But I think if you go back to I think the link is in the benchmark chart.
Okay, I'll go
We
take a look.
put- Should we put state average in for the, like for the teacher salary too? Or do we not want to go there?
I don't think that's an accurate. I mean, with MCAS,
Yeah,
all the kids take the same test.
right.
Okay.
But if we're going to make the case that Grafton is doing, I don't know what adjective we're using. I've heard people take umbrage with, we're giving kids a great education. And this is the standard by which we judge that. I think we need to see what the state average is compared to everybody else. Because if you look at this chart right now, it's not super great. But maybe the state average is so low that it's my personal standard that's too high. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair. At the very least, says my internet connection is unstable.
Mine too.
Okay. At the very least, again, it gets people talking. And that's sort of the idea of this. How are we doing? What do we want to see? What community do we want to be? What measure do we use to determine if we've gotten there? I think that's a good conversation to have. Okay, I think this is coming along fantastically. I've got my homework as I'm writing it down. There are some edits I need to make on page 5. We're going to alter some wording around general government to at least explain what that is. There is a chart that we need on compensation strategy. We've got a free cash bar graph that we want to insert. Barry, I'll work with you on that. I know Colleen has that data too. Page 14, we've got a chart to add in there. Schools as a percentage of the municipal budget. Let's make sure we have that data. I'm pretty sure we do. Executive municipal salaries, I'll do that. That'll be a project. I will make sure that I contact at least the DOR communities to see if I can get those contracts. We're all people in this world and we've all been involved in local government to one extent or another. So this is going to be a little bit of an undertaking, particularly during COVID, to get somebody to cough up a contract to me without a Freedom of Information Act request, but we'll see how that goes. And then paragraph 23, there's going to be a paragraph on per pupil spend, if you guys want to write that. And then I will put that caveat in at the beginning about COVID. And then we'll do the MCAS state averages on this last chart. Am I missing anything?
Sir?
Yes, sir.
The whole idea of school as a percentage of the total budget,
Mhm.
It bothers me because
I understand where you're going with this, but go ahead.
the municipal side of the budget covers the buildings, and
Right,
that's a lot, and the
Right.
debt service on the buildings.
right,
Municipal side of the budget also covers the benefits, at
right,
least health insurance. I'm guessing some of the other things.
right,
Like if you get rid of somebody, you're going to be paying a percentage of their unemployment.
right,
All of that says, wait a minute, even though we're looking at about a $36 million school budget, we get 12 million back, give or take 11 million from the state. So what percentage are we using? Are we counting the buildings? If we didn't have schools, we wouldn't have school buildings, blah, blah, blah. So I get a little, plus there's this issue in town about school versus municipal. You're giving too much money to one, not enough money to the other, blah, blah, blah. It's almost like the third rail. You don't want to touch it.
I love third rails. Those are my favorite rails. They're the most
Never would
exciting.
have thought that about you, Ed.
Third rail is the best rail. No, so I understand what you're saying, and it's because things are so intermingled in communities, that it becomes difficult. It becomes a difficult accounting exercise to figure out, okay, what costs are you exactly attributing to a school side versus municipal side? Particularly, again, Barry, you were right, where the municipal side of the budget covers health insurance, but the school side gets reimbursed $11-12 million or whatever it is per year for the school budget from the state. You wouldn't have gotten that money otherwise. What is it really? I don't think we need to get into that because every community is doing the accounting the same way. So if apples to apples, I can say Ashland's percentage is this, Grafton's percentage is this, Bellingham's percentage is this, Westboro's percentage is this. Under school cost structure, we can talk about, okay, this is what the costs are for maintaining the system, and we will get into health insurance, and we will get into the split in healthcare for the unions, and we'll do it for the municipal side and the town side. And we'll talk about the income generated on the income structure analysis about what we're getting in state aid. And those numbers are going to tell that story. So I'm less worried about it here in benchmarking because it's an apples to apples comparison. If I found out that like Bellingham was doing it differently and they're like, oh no, we include health insurance in our school budget, then that would be different. But they don't. So I think we're okay. But I appreciate the point.
Just to play devil's advocate for a moment, that all makes sense within the confines of this room. But the visceral reaction to a lot of people when you get into that town meeting is going to be, yeah, but Westboro or this one, that one didn't get two brand spanking new schools buildings built.
Yeah, but I don't care for the purposes of this report. People can have the reactions they want to have. The data is the data. Their reaction is based on their own life experience and what we should do as a result of what the data says. But the data is the data. What the percentage of budget in Westboro, Bellingham, Ashland, Shrewsbury, Westboro is the same comparison that we're going to be made the same way. That's all we want. It's no different than any other chart that we've got here.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, I think, visceral reaction of some people is.
Yeah, that's sort of the idea, though, is to get people to react, to get them talking about, where and how we compare to other communities, and then no more than that. We don't. Our mission here isn't to get into how Shrewsbury does it, or get into how Ashland does it, or how Oxford does it, and say, can we. Can or should we be doing it like them? Because we're never going to be another community. All we can do is say, look, to the extent that people say this is too high, well, here's a measure by which you would say too high. Here are our tax rates. Here's what you're paying. Here's what the percentage of budget is. And this is the data. From there, we take the next step and look inward instead of outward to say, what are we doing? And how can we possibly be doing it better to address the questions that the benchmarking data raised? That's all.
Ed, can you unshare?
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay.
Because I can see all of you.
Yeah, I can't see everybody.
Okay. So with that, is there anything else anybody wants to go over on the benchmarking draft?
I did want to talk about kind of the timeline.
Yes.
There was one page I wanted to add. I wanted to add everybody's names and an acknowledgement section. I have some names to contribute to that personally. You're on the agenda, I believe, for this coming Tuesday.
Yeah.
Should we put it off? More time? Because I don't know.
So I was thinking about it. I was thinking about the agenda for the select board meeting. And I started wondering, why am I on the agenda for the select board meeting? I know we had talked about it because they were interested in the results. But when we're done with this is going up on the town's website and the select board can read it like everybody else. It's not like they're going to vote on it. If they want me to speak to the data and, give them a general overview of what we've found, I'm happy to do that. But they don't have editorial rights. So,
No, that's not what I'm asking. Because Jen had asked you if you wanted to be on the agenda for June 2nd, and you said yes.
Yeah. So I think I was enthusiastic to say, here's the final copy. And I don't think we need to have that final stamped draft before this Tuesday night before I can talk about, okay,
Okay.
generally speaking, here's what we found. And we expect this to go live within the next 14 days. So, what time is it now? It's 8 o'clock now. I don't like my meetings to go longer than an hour. So if we could, do you think we could wrap this up and get it published draft, like a voted on draft a week from tonight? Is that too aggressive? Okay. Want to schedule another Zoom meeting for next Thursday at 7?
Okay.
Okay.
I can do that.
That way
And I
we'll,
think you should just hand them the report. Don't give it to them in advance, because isn't that the way things are usually done? at
that's
select
how,
board
that's
meetings?
how I understand things are done.
A little sarcasm there.
For me, I don't think so.
Okay, so we'll meet again on the 4th. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh, right. There's an event on the 4th.
There is. The one political event of the season is on the 4th.
Okay.
No, there's another
What's
one
that?
on the 7th, I believe.
What?
I think the League of Women Voters is on the 7th.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that.
I've got a Yes Grafton outreach meeting at 7 o'clock that night. So
That's-
that's a problem.
Let me just look at my
All right,
schedule.
we'll talk
here.
offline, Colleen.
So one question, do we think we need another meeting to finalize it? It seems like a lot of the changes were relatively minor, changing some of the wording, adding in a few charts. If we do that offline by a specific date and everyone reviews, could we then decide if we think another meeting's warranted?
Well, under open meeting law, we would have to, like, I don't want to publish it until you guys vote on it, and I can't
Okay.
have you vote on it until we could, ideally, you're right, we could publish it, say, here, everybody review this, and I would log on and say, all in favor, say aye, and that would be it. And that could be, it could be a really brief meeting. If that's the case, I don't want to do it Friday. How about Monday, the 8th at 7 o'clock?
I have a selectmen's meeting. I want to be available. Not that you need me, but just saying.
If it's quick, is 7, can we do 6:30?
I could do that.
Yeah, want to do 6:30?
Can everybody
Monday
do
the 8th?
6:30 on
Because
June
all
8th?
we'd be doing is voting to approve the report.
Yep,
Yeah.
open the meeting. Someone makes a motion.
And then that's it.
That's it.
And what we would do thereafter, just so we know, is we would probably schedule another GSC meeting for maybe the 18th of June to discuss next steps once we have a better idea of who's going to be around town hall and when and how we want to. Yeah, I know.
No, I'm just saying that because that's like literally the only event I have in June.
Oh, is what, the 18th?
Yeah,
Oh,
you can go without me.
no, we can do the 25th. That's fine. I mean, my take on the next couple steps is I want to get them done, but we're a little bit handcuffed. I don't want to make anybody uncomfortable and be like, you have to meet with us and everybody's gonna wear masks.
Do you think by the time we're into June 25th, are we going to be able to meet in person again? We're a small enough group. I mean, other towns are having meetings in buildings now. BVT school committee's meeting tonight and they've got like 15 people.
I actually don't mind doing it like this. This is fairly nimble.
I don't know.
Yeah, you like the in-person thing?
I like to not be distracted by my million children.
I think this, I
Okay,
actually think
for
this
Amy's
is
sake,
pretty-
we will do these in person.
You didn't hear the crash earlier as my kid knocked over like a whole bunch of crap in the kitchen. It was great.
No, but when you were screen sharing, I saw that Greg was sending you messages, and I really wanted you to click over. So I hear you. Okay, so let's do June 25th, place TBD. So let's give it a couple weeks to see who's doing what where. That's
So we're also doing a meeting on the 8th as well?
yeah. So we'll do a quick meeting on the 8th at 6:30, and then our next full meeting to talk about next steps for the cost structure reports will be the 25th.
Got it, thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Yes, did anybody, I know that the priority was the benchmarking report, but did anybody take a look at the survey? I sent it around. in Word doc, in the emails, and I also uploaded it to the Google Docs.
I did. I read it right before the meeting. I like it. I think we're getting there with that. That's neat. I did have one. I mean, I don't know if we're going to discuss it tonight. Are we going to discuss it tonight?
Is it officially on the agenda?
It's not.
No, I mean, I just put it up there. I mean, you can read it, and I left open, as I said, for anybody who didn't get the chance to take a look at it. I left placeholders for 4 questions, 2 each on the municipal and the school. And everybody is, of course, free to put in their comments on the wording of the other questions that I have there, the demographics, you know, the essay, the one essay question, which is the last one, that's pretty self-explanatory. Usually it takes 2-3 iterations of this back and forth. I tried to be very objective on the wording, so nobody could say you're slanting this one way or the other. Please feel free to interject and add other choices if I missed anything. I think if we keep it to 13 questions that are fairly straightforward, but still hopefully comprehensive. Oh, I like that screen.
Feels better already.
Yeah. I think people will get a better response rate.
Okay.
And of
Let's
course, right on the top of it, all responses are confidential.
And as we're going through this, we get the survey ready to go out, and the benchmarking report is up there. We're going to want to talk about outreach too. So let's talk about put the survey on the next agenda. We'll put school and municipal cost structure strategy on the agenda for next time, and then the surveys as well as outreach.
Yes, and I also am pretty close to completing that PowerPoint on the historical perspectives of Grafton with the, from 2000 to 2020, with how the taxes went up, what happened, what we got that was new for the services, et cetera.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you. That's
Thank
great.
you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you want it to be fair and balanced. And in the nearly 20 years that I've lived here, my taxes have gone up by over 40%. However, as I said at the very first meeting we had, I've also seen the quality of life is very good, and that, as much as people complain about the potholes here, that I've seen improvements. I see
Right.
where my tax money is going, whether it's new schools, new traffic lights, et cetera. So I think it's important to include that. And at the same time, our crime rate is pretty good. Now, am I free to give a call over to the Grafton PD?
For what?
Well, I just wanted to get the statistics that they had on crime over the past 15 years, since we've had, the population over the past 20 years actually nearly double.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, any citizen can do that.
Yeah. All right. I'll
no,
entertain a motion to adjourn.
No,
What?
we have to approve minutes.
Oh,
Move
that's
to
right.
approve the
Yeah.
minutes.
Thank you,
Motion made.
Mark.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, by roll call, Mark Cadet,
Aye.
Angie Correa,
Aye.
Laura Didio,
Aye.
Martin John.
Aye.
Pam Hill,
Aye.
Amy Marr,
Aye.
Barry Smith.
aye.
We still haven't made Colleen a full-time member, have we? Did we vote on that yet?
We have not, and it wasn't on the agenda.
No, it wasn't. Let's put that on the agenda for next time, because we do have a resignation we're going to have to approve. Lindsay Fox is no longer able to make the commitment, so will be resigning. So we will have an opening. Okay. Minutes are approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Please say no.
Move to
Okay.
adjourn.
Motion made, do I hear a second?
Second,
All right, motion made second. All in favor by roll call, Angie Correa,
Aye.
Laura Didio,
Aye.
Martin John,
Aye.
Pam Hill,
Aye.
Amy Marr,
Aye.
Barry Smith,
Aye.
and Mark Haddad.
Aye.
Frisbee, as well. Thank you guys so much. That was productive. I will see you guys on Monday.